Episode 4 of the Book of Boba Fett just dropped, and we got to talk about it. This is my favorite episode so far. Man, this was good, and it felt like it explained everything that we've been asking for this entire time. So yeah, let's get into it. When this episode starts, he's just wandering around on the Bantha, and we have no idea how long this has been. Like, I really want to understand what the passage of time is in between all the Tuskens kind of getting the axe and him spying on it and all this stuff happening that coincides with the Mandalorian. Can we also talk about how good, like, everything in the show has been as far as like the creature designs and the makeup effects and all this stuff? Like, we finally get people in full costume and full prosthetics that are able to emote with their face and be convincing. Like, that's really, really cool. This Bantha is adorable and like makes me want to pet one. Like, I don't know. It's super cool. Personally, I love it when there's multiple things going on at the same time. It makes it feel like a comic book where there's going to be like overlapping stories. The fact that the actual flares that we see Mando shoot up in order to blind Fennec Shand is exactly what led Boba over there in the first place. I think that's a really cool touch, and it's the reason that she got saved. And it's nice to just see both of these stories running in tandem despite them being very different shows. I also really enjoy the fact that we're not just watching Boba Fett do mission after mission, because we're getting that with the Mandalorian and extra things being kind of tossed in there. And I love that the Book of Boba Fett has its own identity, even if I don't love the show itself to the same degree. I like having that variety. But of course, he finds Fennec Shand, he takes her to it, and we get our first experience with the mods. And we kind of get to know why he understands them and why he hired them, because, you know, they've been around. A couple things to note about where Boba takes Fennec in order to save her life. He takes her to the modifier, like the person that's actually doing these mods to all of these kids, and essentially he is just a Ripper Doc from Cyberpunk 2077. But the parlor itself looks super cool, but the music that's playing there hit me. Like, I thought it was super sick, and the musician that made that music is the modifier in the scene. And what's even cooler is that guy has a robot hand, and his hand is from a B2 battle droid. And I mean, it makes me curious if he's got wrist rockets in there, you know? Another cool thing of note is, you know, when asked how come he didn't cover it up, it's like, cover up all that beautiful machinery? Or maybe it says beautiful metal, something like that. I thought that was cool because these mods do not want to fit in. That is the purpose. That's the purpose of any counterculture, is not fitting in. So I get the complaints about the mods and their scooters being bright and colorful. But if you look at any group of like young people, like you look at punks or goths or scene kids or emo kids, or there's so many like subsections of cultures that at that specific age do not want to fit in, and that was what makes sense. Them being out of place on Tatooine is what makes it work. After Fennec is saved and she wakes up, he says, "You're Fennec Shand, the master assassin of the Mid-Rim," showing that he actually did know who she was when he picked her up, and knew that he could help her if he got her fixed. When Boba hands her the black melon, he says it takes time to get used to, but in time you'll start to crave it. And I feel like that represents Boba's time with the Tuskens themselves. Took a while to get used to, but now he misses that camaraderie. And it also explains Fennec's time with him. Like, it's a foreshadowing event. I just think that was a cool nod. And then, of course, we have the big controversial moment. He says, "I need you to help me get my fire spray gunship." People are like, "Oh no, they renamed it." First of all, we've already known for months that they were stepping away from using Slave One as the name. But it doesn't mean that the name has changed. He calls it the fire spray gunship. Why? Because it's a fire spray gunship. Like, that's what the ship is. And to be honest, in the context, it makes more sense that he would call it that, because now when looking for it, she would know what to look for, because she doesn't know the ship by name, and you don't know what's in there. You know what I mean? Like, if I named my car Betty and I said, "Oh, we need to go get Betty," you're like, "What?" or if I said, hey, we need to go get a Chevy Sonic, then you know, right? I thought Finnick's automated reconnaissance droid was super cool. It was kind of jarring to me at first when I saw the red lights on the top, but I assume hopefully that this is like Splinter Cell with Sam Fisher, and like we can see the green lights but they can't see it. I don't know, that's what I'm hoping for at least. Once they break into Jabba's place, we get a whole bunch of cool droid cameos. The first droid that we see here is EV-99, and this is the droid that was taking R2 and C-3PO on a tour and like gave the assignments and assigned R2 to be on the sail barge and did all that stuff. It's cool to see him back in action. Now, we thought we had already seen him back in action though. In The Mandalorian, he was the bartender on Tatooine. So I don't know, is this the same droid and he just has 2 jobs? Doesn't seem likely. The other one was voiced by Mark Hamill, and this one's voice seems a lot more like it. So I really believe that droid isn't EV-99 and this one is. The second droid cameo we get is a COO cook droid. We got to see one of these briefly in Attack of the Clones, but it's a blink and you'll miss it scene. This is the one with 6 arms, and this one goes full General Grievous. Now, it's great for intimidation. It's not super effective in a fight. If you play Battlefront 2, you know exactly what I mean. The next droid cameo we get is an LEP droid, and it shows us that Star Wars is still for kids. It's a little chase scene, it's lighthearted, it's funny, and he's like, I'm Boba Fett, and it shuts itself off so it doesn't have to fight him, which is, it's a good idea. The last droid cameo I wanted to call out was a Plunk Droid, and I know on TikTok I call it a Gonk Droid. That's very similar to a Gonk Droid, but Plunk Droids are a little bit different. They have 4 legs instead of the 2. They are power droids, and yeah, I mean, just like Gonks, they're either carrying fuel or power, and it gets shot and blows up, and we need justice for the Plunk. Justice for Plunk. In case you forgot that Boba Fett is indeed a badass, yeah, he definitely took it to those bikers. Now, that being said, we actually had dialogue earlier that suggests there's more to that story. Fennec Shand said that there was no way that those bikers could have taken out, the whole tribe of Tuskens, and all we saw was, their logo painted on there. I think we're going to find out a lot more to the story, but this scene was awesome, and I honestly think that we need some sort of Boba Fett's revenge ride at Disneyland, which is basically this, and we can give controls to the people in the seats and you fly around and shoot things. I think it'd be a winner. Let's go. Disney, hire me. I never thought that a jump scare in Star Wars would get me quite like this one, but yeah, visiting the Sarlacc was pretty scary. I also love how when we approach it, it was just, the big old space butthole that we're used to from the originals. Now, in the special editions, George Lucas added the beak that kind of comes up, and that wasn't there, at least not at first. It's cool that they kind of married the two concepts together, that it exists inside and it comes up and grabs things. Also, this kind of reminded me of the Boba Fett story, A Barv Like That, which is from Tales from Jabba's Palace. In that, he revisits that's the story of how he escapes the Sarlacc for a second time. That's the time where he has the telepathic link and all that stuff with the Sarlacc. And after he gets out, like a year later, he comes back, but instead of angling the ship forward, he angles it backwards, and he basically cooks the Sarlacc, gets that telepathic link again, and can feel its anguish and stuff, but he doesn't kill it. Because you don't kill a Barv like that all at once. He saves it so that he can come back and continue to torment it. It's kind of messed up, but that's also a very strange story. So it is what it is. We also, of course, we can't get the ship without getting a seismic charge, and it lived up to its name. Dropping a seismic charge inside of the Sarlacc was inspired, and of course the sound, chef's kiss. Boba Fett did the repairs on a ship by himself. He said that there's advantages to people thinking you're dead, and I think that's one of the reasons that Fennec Shand stayed with him, because everyone thought she was dead. She was like one of the most vaunted bounties on the planet, and no one's looking for her right now. So I think that's one of the reasons why she stayed with him. But yeah, we jump into the most important part of the episode, is the conversation between Fennec Shand and Boba Fett, where we just lay out all the cards on the table. Boba Fett is tired of dying because he's working for idiots. He's tired of these people who are just able to pay money and send people to their deaths. And I think that's awesome. I love that in this show he's actually stepping out of the shadow of his father, understanding that that's why his father died. We know that he spent a bunch of time with Aurra Sing in the past, and Aurra Sing just straight up abandoned him. We know he had a bunch of time with Krait's Claw, and Asajj Ventress abandoned him, like left him locked up in a trunk. They worked together again in the book Dark Disciple, but still, we don't know what the final straw was that forced him to break up from Krait's Claw. It is briefly mentioned in one of the books, The Empire Strikes Back, from a certain point of view, that we should get the old band back together, and he's like, nah, dog. But I love that he has spent time with these Tuskens and understands now that like there's strength in numbers. There truly is, as long as you can find people that aren't going to stab you in the back. Fennec straight up says, you've gone soft, and he's like, no, I've gotten strong. And I feel like this was directly answering a lot of the complaints by the fans. And by the way, if you're like, looks like they learned their lesson, I had a bunch of people comment that. Bro, you realize they had already recorded, this was already done. It's not like they read your comments and then decided to add this scene. It's funny. We're telling backstory, so wait for the backstory so that you can understand the backstory. Crazy, right? Then of course we jump to Black Chrysanthemum, and man, I love this scene. Like, the ability to emote in all of this stuff is just incredible, top notch. He goes off on a bunch of Trandoshans. The feud between Trandoshans and Wookiees is very deep seated. I'm gonna make an entire video on that because, man, it's kind of messed up. Basically, the Trandoshans are trained from a very young age to kill Wookiees, to hate Wookiees. They're told that like Trandoshan eggs are a delicacy, and the Wookiees are going to like kill them off, like just wanton, unless they kill him first. And so that's kind of where it all starts, and it's not true at all. Hopefully we get more backstory. We actually find out that in that same book, From a Certain Point of View, Empire Strikes Back, we find out that the most prolific liberator of Wookiees is actually Bosk's sister, who goes by the name Chainbreaker. Anyways, I'm gonna make a whole video on that separately, but yeah, Black Chrysanthemum goes off on these guys. And again, like, the Trandoshan like looking left and right like, please someone help me, and then he gets his arm still ripped off. That scene was awesome. That was badass. I loved it. Of course, Garza Fwip is still there, and damn, yeah, we finally get our Godfather style like meeting of the minds of all the families, and basically they have agreed not to interfere, which leads us to believe that we are going to get a bounty hunter team up. Fennec says, we can buy muscle, and then the Mando theme starts playing. So I think we're definitely getting Din Djarin back. There's some rumors that we might get a young Han Solo back, and I mean, there's a lot that we could potentially see. I would love to see if Valance makes an appearance there. I hopefully will get Bosk. A lot of people have been wanting to see Cad Bane show up, and I think that would be awesome. I think this would be a great way to finish off that character, is to have him show up and then have them have a conflict. I need Embo. I need Embo to come back. I just love him. And as always, give me Quinlan Vos. Always. Yeah, it doesn't even apply here, but he worked as a bounty hunter before. Who knows? He might come back. We'll see. You don't know this. All in all, this was my favorite episode of the Book of Boba Fett so far. I mean, I love the flashbacks, and I love that they were telling us sort of how we got to this point, but I'm happy now that we have finished that backstory, and we're going to be able to move forward with all the added context of those times. We'll be able to uncover some of those secrets and just focus on moving forward. So I think the whole season is going to last a lot. It's going to go faster from here, and I'm excited to see who we're going to get and what facing off against the Pike Syndicate really is like. Also, we better see Boba riding that Rancor. Like, I'm gonna be sorely disappointed if we don't get that. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett, episode 4. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comments. If you like the channel, please like, share, subscribe, and comment, and do all the things. I super appreciate it. Thank you so much, and may the Force be with you always.